Hey, yo, what's the deal? It's your boy Tag from Pro Wrestling Tag, you know what I mean? As of this recording, it is 10:24 p.m., May 7th, 2026, but the day and the upload time to all this is actually May 8th, 12 p.m. You know what I mean? And I want to talk about this because this is funny. This is fucking hilarious. So, do you guys remember Lucha Underground or the people who's behind Lucha Underground, they made a post, right? Like, a couple of days ago, right? Hyping up something. Thinking that, well, Lucha Underground is coming back, right? Oh, man, Lucha Underground is going to be, it's going to be returning. They're gonna basically go up against WWE and TNA and everything else. Oh man, and there were a lot of rumors of who could potentially, come back to Lucha Underground, right? One person that kept getting mentioned was Matanza, aka JC Mateo, aka Jeff Cobb, right? Now it was announced that the tease for that same Lucha Underground show, right? It's basically just for the replays. It's basically just to show all the seasons and all the old episodes. That's basically what it is. And I laughed my ass off because, everyone was getting hyped, like, oh man, Lucha Underground's coming back, and blah blah blah. And now it's just all the old episodes, right? All the old episodes and stuff made for availability online to stream, right? And my thing is this, and I was about to say, because I'm like, yo, Lucha Underground, honestly, to keep it a stack with you, would not work in 2026. It would not, because I think pro wrestling now is at a different stage. You know what I mean? It's at a much different stage where, theatrics and such, what made Lucha Underground hot at that time, right? It would not work it would not work today. It would not work today. It really wouldn't. I think with Lucha Underground, it had its time. I mean, it had its time and everything, but I think, all good things must come to an end. And mind you, like, it fit the mid-2000s, the mid-2010s. It did because it brought something new. You know what I mean? It created stars that you see in all companies, right? And now it's like, it's time to give it a rest. I mean, it's time to give it a rest. And the other thing too is, I don't even think El Rey would have been interested in recreating Lucha Underground, reviving Lucha Underground. Why? Because you got contracts. You know what I mean? You got people who get signed to WWE and such. And so it wouldn't make sense at this day and age. It really wouldn't. I mean, it really would not. Now, I am glad that they made, that they got Lucha Underground available now for anybody to see, right? But I think reviving the program, at this point, it would kind of be a little asinine. It really would. It definitely would, because, first and foremost, their main star, Prince Puma, is in AEW right now, right? He's in All Elite Wrestling, get ready to face, Chris Jericho, who nobody's really talking about at this point. At this point, I think he's a lot worse off now than he was last year, but the sickos ain't gonna like that. They're not gonna like to hear that, right? But the fact that, a lot of their main stars are basically gone, right? It doesn't make sense to revive it. It really doesn't. And, if you think that bringing Lucha Underground back, and here's the other thing too, if you think bringing Lucha Underground back was going to, put a dent with WWE, like it did back, and we didn't even put a dent in WWE, it was just another alternative. right? If you think that's going to happen, you think that would have if you think that was going to happen, you're sadly mistaken. Just like that dumb fuck from yesterday who was saying, oh, the AEW is in that positive for the industry, but yet the ratings, the attendance, they don't want to hear that. They think everything is all good, which in reality is not. You know what I mean? Because you see it right for yourself. You know what I mean? Oh, everything is great. Everything is great. But, the optics says otherwise. And that's what they really care about. But yeah, Lucha Underground. I can't even do the voice. My voice is still a little hoarse. You know what I mean? But it's whatever. But listen, enjoy Lucha Underground. Enjoy the reruns of Lucha Underground. I know I will. Because, that's just a distant memory of basically what you would get from the promotion. Nostalgia. Nostalgia is a drug, right? And one other thing I forgot to mention. I think this is very, very, very important. Right? Let me go back into yesterday, right? With the quote unquote net positive from AEW, right? If everything was a quote unquote net positive for the company, right? How come they haven't reached 1 million views in about 3 years for their programming? Huh? How come the last time they did 3 million views, no, 1 million views, 3 million, they will never get to that point. Last time they did 1 million views was when Punk was there, right? And that was a long, long, long time ago, right? So, remember, a net positive, right? Net positive. But yet, you haven't even sniffed, that number of viewership since. And you want to say, oh, it's a net positive? Okay, no problem. What I predict, and it's going to come true, either it's going to be one out of two things that's going to happen automatically. Either, AEW is going to take a deal back with Warner Bros. Discovery, but at a much, 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 much lower rate, right? Or they're going to go to another network, but it's not going to be a major, major, major network. And I guarantee you, that's when all of their viewers will drop, without a shadow of a doubt. But hey, I speak the truth. Y'all like it too bad. And one other thing too, I forgot to mention this too. How is it that it looks like we're going to see AEW, consolidate Collision with Dynamite? You know what I mean? To make it 3 hours weekly. Is there something going on where, the ratings or Warner Bros. Discovery knows that, or they know that Warner Bros. Discovery is going to put the axe on Collision? One would think so. And then watch just one show, Dynamite. It looks like there's trouble in paradise. Anyway, guys, I'm about to be out. You know what I mean? I'm about to go inside and, take a shower and watch some TV, and then I'm going straight to bed. So I'm going to holler at y'all.